Let's kick things off with a pretty stark reality check. You know Michael Burry, right? The guy who famously called the 2008 housing crash? Well, he recently issued this serious warning about the current AI frenzy, and his argument is simple but honestly pretty chilling. AI is incredibly unprofitable right now. He's warning us that eventually the absolute mountain of capital being poured into running these massive data centers, it's going to dry up if companies can't demonstrate a real return on their equity. Basically, if they can't prove they're actually making money off all this phenomenally expensive hardware, the money spigot just turns off. It's a sobering thought, and it's hanging over the entire tech sector right now, forcing business leaders to really ask themselves, are we building sustainable products, or are we just riding a really, really expensive hype cycle? But contrast those bubble fears for a second with this massive, almost incomprehensible projection from Bank of America. They project that by the year 2030, the total addressable market for AI data center systems is going to hit an astonishing $820 billion. I mean, let that number sink in. Bank of America expects major countries and regions to just heavily invest in their own sovereign AI factories. So we're looking at this massive collision, right? You've got deep skepticism about profitability on one side and nearly $1 trillion in projected infrastructure spending on the other. It really begs the question, how on earth do we bridge the gap between burning cash and building an $820 billion industry that actually delivers real-world value? And you can literally see this tension playing out in the markets. Tracking the VanEck Semiconductor ETF, capital is aggressively flowing into semiconductor stocks, surging right alongside the broader S&P 500. But if you look closely at the recent market movements, there's a fascinating pivot happening just under the surface. The focus is actually starting to shift away from the absolute single-vendor dominance of NVIDIA and shifting toward long-overlooked hardware companies like Intel and AMD. Investors are waking up to the reality that to build out this massive ecosystem sustainably, we desperately need alternative, cost-effective hardware. And that sets the stage for a really critical debate about the physical infrastructure that's going to power this next wave of AI without completely breaking the bank. Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are breaking down a monumental shift happening in the B2B tech sector right now. We're finally moving away from the era of risky, wildly expensive AI experiments and stepping into the age of accountable, governed enterprise infrastructure. This is a shift that absolutely matters to anyone working in tech or business today. Why? Because it could determine whether the AI industry bursts like the dot-com bubble or actually matures into the reliable backbone of the global economy. If your company is trying to figure out how to deploy AI without losing its shirt, you are in the right place. Okay, let's dive right in. Here's our roadmap for today. We're going to tackle the enterprise AI dilemma, explore the shift toward governed infrastructure, break down 4 core capabilities, compare bare metal to managed services, hit on compliance for regulated sectors, and finally talk about scaling for real business outcomes. Starting with Section 1, the enterprise AI dilemma, and the major DIY problem happening in AI data centers. Look, every major enterprise wants in on AI right now. But the way they're forced to do it in today's market, it's fundamentally broken. The current dominant model relies on businesses essentially renting commodity GPU capacity by the hour. It's a complete do-it-yourself approach. It's honestly like being handed the raw, unassembled parts of a car engine and being told, hey, build the car while you're already driving down the highway. The enterprise is stuck carrying the entire operational burden, not to mention the insanely complex integration and security risks. But contrast that with the proposed inverted model, a fully managed, governed infrastructure stack. In this model, dedicated compute is embedded right into an operating model, and a single provider owns the whole thing, from the physical silicon all the way up to the actual business outcomes. Which brings us to Section 2, the governed infrastructure shift, and this strategic pivot from Rackspace Technology and AMD. This is a massive development that perfectly illustrates this market inversion. Rackspace Technology and AMD recently announced a memorandum of understanding to completely flip the script on how enterprise AI is deployed. Together, they're establishing a brand new market category called governed AI infrastructure. As defined, it's managed enterprise AI infrastructure where dedicated compute, specifically AMD hardware here, is embedded inside a governed operating model. And it's managed from silicon to outcomes by a single operator, which in this case is Rackspace. This directly solves the exact accountability and return on equity fears that guys like Michael Burry have been screaming about. You aren't just burning cash renting chips blindly anymore. You actually have a partner who is accountable for the return on your investment. Moving to Section 3, let's look at the 4 core AI capabilities, deconstructing the enterprise AI stack. So how does this actually work in the real world? Well, Rackspace and AMD are introducing 4 highly integrated layers to build out this complete governed stack. Think of it like building a state-of-the-art skyscraper. At the foundational bedrock layer, we have bare metal AMD Instinct Compute. Move up a floor, and you get inference as a service, giving you the tools to actually use that foundation. Above that is the enterprise inference engine. That's basically the intelligent brain of the building. And finally, up in the penthouse, we have a fully managed enterprise AI cloud. Let's quickly break down exactly what each of these layers gives an enterprise. Starting down at the foundational hardware and tooling levels, we have bare metal AMD Instinct. This is where you get maximum physical isolation and direct, unshared hardware access for those super demanding, highly customized training workloads. Then, step up one level to Inference as a Service. This offers managed AMD Instinct GPUs combined with developer-ready toolkits. And this is absolutely crucial because it offers a governed, accountable alternative to just renting commodity GPUs by the hour and being left to fend for yourself. If you're a customer who needs deterministic performance, meaning you need your AI to be reliable, predictable, zero lag every single time, you can still bring your own AI models and your own engineering teams, but you do it within a highly disciplined, fully supported environment. Now, moving up to the operations and cloud levels at the top of the stack. Here, the enterprise inference engine acts as a context-aware runtime. So rather than an AI that basically gets amnesia every time you use it, this engine retains domain knowledge, session history, and your specific enterprise data context. It gives your AI agents institutional memory so they actually understand your business. And finally, the enterprise AI cloud is that fully managed hybrid environment. This is where Rackspace takes full responsibility. They own the service level agreement, the SLA, covering availability, scaling, and performance. For an IT director, offloading that SLA risk is huge. You're no longer the single point of failure. Rackspace assembles, integrates, and operates the whole thing to ensure seamless, full compliance. Section 4, bare metal versus managed. How do you choose your AI infrastructure path? With all these new capabilities, IT decision-makers have a critical choice to make. And honestly, it fundamentally comes down to how much operational burden your enterprise actually wants to carry. Look at bare metal AI. You get the absolute highest level of physical isolation, but you, the customer, manage the engineering team and fully own the application SLA. It's perfect for heavy-duty, custom training workloads where you need complete control over the hardware. But contrast that with the enterprise AI cloud. Here, the operational burden is fully managed by Rackspace, and critically, they own the SLA and the business outcomes. This path is tailor-made for deploying mission-critical AI agents. Think complex financial trading algorithms or sensitive healthcare diagnostics, where failure simply isn't an option and you need a dedicated partner ensuring everything runs flawlessly. Which transitions us perfectly to Section 5, Compliance for Regulated Sectors, where accountability is simply non-negotiable. Speaking of mission-critical, this governed approach, it isn't just a nice little upgrade. For heavily regulated industries like healthcare, finance, utilities, and government, this shift is mandatory. Gajen Kandia, the CEO of Rackspace Technology, captures this perfectly. He says, governing AI infrastructure in regulated environments with defined accountability is not something you bolt on after the fact. It must be built in from the start. And think about it. You wouldn't build a massive bank vault and then try to duct tape a padlock onto the front door later as an afterthought, right? The risk of shadow AI or using unmanaged hardware in regulated spaces is just way too high. For sovereign workloads where data privacy laws are incredibly strict, security and auditability cannot be treated lightly. You simply cannot blindly trust unmanaged, rented hardware with your most sensitive customer data. And finally, Section 6, Scaling for Business Outcomes, moving from the lab into production. This really brings us to the ultimate goal of this entire paradigm shift. We are finally moving out of the experimental lab phase of AI and stepping right into full-scale, reliable production. The crucial takeaway here is how results are actually delivered. Rackspace is using an outcomes-as-a-service model. They utilize forward-deployed engineers, meaning expert technical staff who sit side by side with your own team, embedded right inside your environment, to ensure the AI actually works as intended for your specific business. This provides deeply predictable cost structures, which you absolutely need if you want to scale globally. By tying the physical infrastructure directly to measurable business value, enterprises finally have a real, tangible mechanism to eliminate the massive financial risks of just doing blind, unguided AI experimentation. So, bringing it all right back to where we started with Michael Burry's warning, will this definitive shift toward accountable, governed, and managed AI infrastructure be the exact maturation this market desperately needs? Is an outcomes-as-a-service model the missing key to preventing a catastrophic dot-com-style bubble in the AI sector? If the AI market is truly going to hit that staggering $820 billion projection by 2030, raw compute power just isn't going to be enough. accountability might actually become its most valuable currency. So, what side of the infrastructure divide will your business be on? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning the tech that powers our world.